The device we implanted will... I am a traveler. That might sound like a mostly meaningless statement, but it is vital to who I am. Indeed,
Gateway to Hell, Book 1 of the Rogue Gods Trilogy, written by Melinda Kucera. Part 1. Chapter 1. Fallen but not forgotten. Long ago, the last battle for heaven. Garen's heart pounded as the ground under him crumbled away faster than he could outrun the cracks splitting it apart. Orangey light shone through the gaps and hot geysers of sulfuric acid shot upward, then fell in a burning rain on the soldiers running for their lives.
We need to get out of here.
Shalamar shouted from somewhere nearby. But plumes of smoke obscured everything to the left and the right. Lava fountained out of the ground in front of him as he skidded to avoid it. I know, but nothing's working right now. Garen tried again to flash himself away from here, but the world didn't dissolve into a shower of sparks and he stayed right where he stood, covering his eyes with his arm and hoping his specially made armor would shield him.
You dared to defy the will of God, your creator. He can forgive that and let bygones be bygones, but you must kneel now and swear you will serve him. There's only one God,
said a booming voice from above. He was probably an archangel, judging by his pompous tone. Ash rained down on Garen as he backed away from the lava spurting skyward in front of him. He could kneel and throw his lot in with this god, who claimed to have created everything, including Garen himself and all the pantheons of pagan gods. Plenty of his relatives had. I'm a war god. What would this creator god do with me? The thought of kneeling before the archangels he fought against made the fire inside him burn hotter and brighter, and he thought he might just have one more fireball left within him. After all, he was a god of war. I don't surrender to anyone. Come down here and fight me, he shouted at the angel silhouetted against the gray sky.
Have it your way. Just remember, you chose exile.
The archangel extended the rod in his hand, and violet lightning exploded from its tip. It streaked toward Garen, but it missed when he dodged. Instead, it struck the ground, and it disappeared in a shower of rocks. Something reached out of the abyss below and wrapped around Garen's ankles as he searched for something to grab onto, but the ground was gone, and the creature yanked him into Stygian darkness.
Remember, you had a choice, and you chose the way of pain. It didn't have to end like this,
said the angel from above, and he sounded sad. Now, somewhere in hell. Garen slapped his face. Move, damn it, you can't stay here, or they'll find you. He didn't want to relive the interminable fall, his imprisonment by that plant-like creature, and the experiments the Fallen did to steal his pagan godhood. I never found out why they wanted a piece of that. Perhaps they wanted the sliver of divinity that remained after the fall. Perhaps the Fallen just liked to torture his kind. Only they knew why they did anything, and he wouldn't stop one to ask. You need to move. You can't stay in the alley. But he was tired of running. Where could he go anyway? There wasn't any way to escape from hell, and even if there was, his chains wouldn't let him leave. Just thinking about what bound him to this realm caused the black manacles to appear around his ankles. They weren't always visible, but he felt their cold black iron. Darkness covered the city now in an imitation of nighttime. The alley seemed to close in around him, and he clenched his fists.
You chose this,
said the archangel in his memory. He still didn't know which one spoke to him at the end of the last battle, when the Morning Star, better known as the adversary, lost and the archangels threw him down into this place. Of course, they'd also thrown his army down with him. I can't even fault them for that. I'd have done the same thing in their place. That just made his current circumstances even more frustrating.
It doesn't have to be like this,
she whispered, but when he turned, there was no one else in the alley. Look how far you've fallen, from a war god to a man stripped of his powers, creeping around a dark alley. Garen shook his head. How the mighty had fallen. But he scanned the shadowed lumps along both sides of the alley anyway, because her voice must have come from somewhere.
You can rise again,
she said. She was probably a delusion, or a succubus hidden nearby was having a little fun at his expense. No, I can't. I'm damned and stuck here because I chose the wrong side in a war that changed everything. And that was his fault. They said pride went before the fall, and boy were they right. Garen clenched his fists. There's no redemption for me. Maybe he could get some payback and get some of his powers back. A remnant burned in his heart, so he wasn't completely powerless.
What if you're wrong? Are you prepared to let your last chance slip away?
She asked. Lady, I told you, there are no more chances, not for me. I turned against the Creator, and he's not a forgiving deity. Garen turned away from the voice.
What if you're wrong? You haven't answered that question.
A light kindled at the other end of the alley, and a door creaked open.
Come and find out who's right if you dare.
A silhouette of a woman gestured to the light behind her. Who are you? He shielded his eyes.
I'm not important, but I represent someone who is. She can help you, but only if you'll do the work required.
She crooked her finger. And if I don't? Although he had nothing better to do and nowhere to go.
Hell has no fury like an angry woman. Are you sure you want to anger her?
The silhouette turned and stepped into the light.
Come and see if your dark deeds can be redeemed.
Goran glanced the other way into the impenetrable darkness at the other end of the alley, but it didn't call him. That woman did, though. Well, it's not like I have anything to lose. I've lost everything already. His situation could get worse, but perhaps it could also get better. I won't know unless I follow her. And he was a gambling man at heart, risking the lives of his soldiers in every battle. Garen ghosted after her, making barely a sound as he glided over the broken cobblestones. Garen squinted as he stepped inside. The only sign he wasn't outside anymore was the change in terrain. Here the floor was smooth, and his boots made only a soft thud on impact. He closed his tearing eyes as the screams echoed through his mind. His nostrils flared as the acrid scent of sulfur filled the air and heat burned his skin, leaving a trail of sweat that dripped down his chest, spine, and legs as he backed toward the door. I think I made a mistake. I'll just leave the way I came, and you do whatever you're doing without me,
Please stay. The fires can't burn you since they don't really exist here.
said a woman he couldn't see. Then why do I feel their heat? Before he fell, fire couldn't hurt him. It obeyed him instead, but that was when everyone feared and revered him as a god of war. Now he was weak and trapped in this infernal realm. His ears rang with the screams of the damned, and they were a constant reminder of his fall from grace.
I can't help it if your memories burn.
Scorched earth surrounded him. Leafless trees smoked in the distance like extinguished torches. In the middle of that destruction, a woman in white robes stood. She looked out of place amidst the seared landscape, but she didn't rectify that either. Her slanted, glowing violet eyes fixed on him and tried to pin him in place with her implacable stare. But he'd long ago become immune to that thanks to a pantheon of eternally squabbling gods. Who are you? Garen stepped toward her, then stopped. What am I doing? This is probably a trap. But he didn't turn away. There was nowhere to run anyway, so he might as well stay here and find out what she wanted.
Like you, I have many names. Some are even accurate.
She grimaced, and her hair cascaded like a waterfall of rippling darkness behind her. Good God, she was beautiful, but so were all the angels. Give me one of your names. Uncertainty filled Garen as he approached her. She had the violet eyes of an angel. Was she an ascendant angel visiting from heaven? A demon pretending to be an angel or a fallen angel? Either way, she was trouble.
Some call me the sleeping angel. Will that suffice?
She watched him, but her solemn expression didn't change. Yes, that will do for now, but I hope to earn another name soon. Garen wanted to smack himself. Where was this coming from? Probably from the hard length in his pants. He covered it with his hands, although it was probably already too late. She must know the effect she had on him.
Perhaps you will one day, but not today.
Why did you want to talk to me? Because if it was to banter, then this was a waste of time. I should put as much space between us as possible before morning.
You fought on the wrong side, Garen.
She said. Her voice was a seductive melody that sent shivers down his spine.
The Fallen took your power, and they used it to take over this realm and turn it into hell.
She spread her arms and bones surrounded them. Whose bones are these? Garen tried not to step on any. The dead deserved better than this, but he couldn't gather up thousands of bones and bury them with the proper rites.
They also enslaved the natives of this realm, and these are their bones.
Why? Are you showing me this? It all happened a long time ago, and it wasn't my doing. There wasn't anyone to save, just bones crunching under his feet no matter how carefully he stepped. His heart pounded in his chest. She offered him a chance at redemption, but she hadn't delivered on it yet. Maybe she never would. This might be a setup to trap him so the Fallen could bleed more of his power.
There's a rebellion, and I want you to help them overthrow the adversary and return this realm to its rightful ruler, me.
She rested a long, bony hand on her chest.
Help them, and redeem yourself in the process.
She waved her hand, and an image materialized before them of a motley crew of gods, demons, and mortals, united in their quest for freedom. For the first time since he fell, hope blossomed in his chest, not for redemption, but for a chance to strike the adversary and pay him back for all his deceptions and lies. How can I help them? He backed away from the images.
Go to the Library of Forbidden Knowledge and find the Book of Names. It holds the true names of everyone in hell.
And names have power. He nodded as he considered it. Getting inside would be a challenge, and finding that book would be an even bigger one. But he was sorely in need of a challenge.
Yes, they do.
Is your name in there?
Perhaps it is.
She glanced away and bit her lower lip. Are the names of the fallen in there too? Garen circled her until he could look her in the eyes again.
Yes, we can use their names to bind them and ultimately defeat them, but we need your help to get it.
Could he do this? If I still had my powers, then yes, it would be easy. But without them, he didn't know if he could get into the library and out again without getting caught and sent back to the spire. I still have my fighting skills, but I lost a lot of my strength. What do I get if I do this? Do you have a one-way ticket to heaven in your pocket? Garen pointed at her white robe.
Is that what you want?
She narrowed her eyes suspiciously. The question caught him off guard. What do I want? Garen didn't know. Why should I believe anything you say? How do I know you're not just another fallen angel trying to manipulate me? Her eyes softened. Perhaps she understood his hesitation.
You have every reason to doubt me. I'm here to restore balance, not perpetuate chaos, but I can't prove it. Not now, because this is just a dream, and I can twist it to suit my needs, but that won't prove anything to you. Find me after you deliver the book to the rebels. Wake me up, and I'll tell you how to defeat the Prince of Lies.
She raised her hand and whispered an incantation. A shimmering portal materialized before them, revealing the dark alley he left minutes before.
You must go before a patrol finds you.
Was there a body slouched against the wall? Yes, there was, and it was his battered body. The bitter taste of betrayal lingered in his mouth. Garen clenched his fists, and anger boiled within him because he was looking at himself.
The fallen stole my throne and imprisoned me. Together we can reclaim what we lost.
The fire in her eyes spoke of a shared desire for justice. Garen cast caution to the wind. If he couldn't help a beautiful woman, then what good was he? I'll help your rebellion. As he said that, the weight of his decision settled on his shoulders like a bag of bricks. Together, we will restore peace to this realm. The woman nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude and determination.
Thank you. Now go. Find the Book of Names so we can fight the darkness that consumed this world.
Garen searched her eyes for any sign of deception. He felt a strange connection to her, a pull that went beyond mere physical attraction. But what did he really have to lose? Nothing, because he had nothing now. All right, if I find out you're lying, I'll make you pay for it. A faint smile played on her lips as she replied.
I wouldn't expect anything less from a god of war. Now go. My fate's in your hands.
You might regret that before long. Garen would get the book and take it to her people. If nothing else, it would give him a destination and a place to go. Then he'd see about waking her up and finding out if what she said was true. But first, he'd look through the Book of Names and keep a few for himself, just in case.
The rebellion awaits you,
she whispered, and his heart raced as she reached under her robe and pulled out a pendant etched with symbols that glinted in the orangey light.
This won't protect you. Nothing can now, but it'll help you find the rebels.
She offered it to him, and her gaze never wavered. As Garen reached out to take the pendant, the woman stepped forward, and her lips brushed against his like a promise.
Trust no one.
The woman vanished, leaving him standing alone in an empty room. He stared at the pendant in his hand, feeling its weight and the deal he just struck. One book of names for one chance to strike back at the author of his miserable state. Not a bad deal. Well, you agreed to this, so you'd best get to it. Garen stepped through the doorway back into the alley as a hot wind blew past him, sending trash flying. Distant laughter echoed through the alley. It was a sinister reminder that the fallen were always watching. This was a path to what? Did he actually think that helping this rebellion would do anything to change his fate? No, I don't think anything can do that now. But just having a purpose filled him with strength and made him feel more like himself than he'd felt in a long time. Determination fired him up as he strode toward that laughter. After all, what was a little danger to a former war god? I've fought more battles than any of the fallen and led more armies than the adversary. That worthy had only ever led one army into one war, and he lost it. While I've led more than I want to count. But he turned back as his natural suspicion took hold. Garen had made many mistakes in the past, and this might be another one. He still had no proof that woman wasn't working for the adversary, and he was the Prince of Lies. Doubt gnawed at him, but logic cut through it like a cold knife. The adversary didn't need that woman. He could walk into the library whenever he wanted and take the book. And why would he bother? The Morning Star had set his sights on the mortal world long ago, and all his plots revolved around subjugating it and turning it into Hell's waiting room or something. Garen hadn't paid attention to that jerk's plans, because he'd planned to dispose of the so-called Prince of Darkness as soon as the war ended. I could have done it too. I had the power and prowess. No one was a match for me, except for those damned archangels and their spirit blades. Garen rubbed his arm where one such blade cut him, and shivered, remembering the jolts of agony that sent through him. It felt like 1,000 cuts to his soul, and each one burned like a fire in his flesh. But the Morning Star didn't have one of those blades. I don't have my powers either, so the rebellion was his only hope of defeating the self-styled adversary, and that would have galled the man he was when he first arrived here. But now it was an unignorable fact, and he must deal with it. Reality was never what people wanted it to be. But this felt different, now that he wasn't so damned aroused by her presence. He remembered hearing rumors of a sleeping angel and a rebellion somewhere outside this city. That didn't mean anything, not really, since the adversary could have put her up to this. He loved his games. If she planned to turn on him, then why tell him about the Book of Names? It was a powerful weapon in anyone's hands. Yes, he wasn't a mage or a wizard, but he was a pagan god, and he still had some power. I could use those names too. She's got no guarantee I'll take the book to her people. I could grab it and run far away. Or did she have some guarantee? Of course, the Fallen would hunt him down as soon as they realized the book was gone and who had taken it. Gurren rubbed his arm again, but the memory of the pain was fading, and this felt less like a setup and more like a genuine request. He still couldn't see any downsides to doing this, and that meant he was probably overlooking something. They built the Library of Forbidden Knowledge like a fortress, and he'd face unimaginable challenges to reach it, but that thought excited him. For the first time since he escaped the Fallen, he had a destination, and soon he'd have a powerful weapon to use against them. Tonight's a great night to start a war, he said to the shadows that surrounded him. Then he slipped into them and became one with the darkness creeping through the streets of a city in hell whose name he never cared to learn. As he disappeared into the shadows, a woman peered through a small hole in the wall opposite where Gurren just stood. A wicked smile spread across her blue face. The war had begun, and that fool would deliver the first blow for her mistress.
Send word to Avalonia of the Neverseen. Tell her I'm sending a weapon. Use it wisely,
She said to someone in the room behind her. Chapter 2. Sneaking through hell. Gurren drifted through the streets while darkness shrouded them. But he wasn't an incorporeal cloud, so he sweated through his tunic from the effort required to step without making a sound. He kept his mind as blank as the darkness surrounding him, in case a mind reader was out and about. True stealth was just a deception anyway. He just needed anyone who passed by to keep on walking and not give him a second glance. The cobblestone street ended at the remnants of a stone wall that probably enclosed the city at some point, but now it lay in ruins, and he climbed slowly over them to keep from making any noise or dislodging any more of the broken masonry. So far, so good. There was no sign of the Fallen, or that anyone noticed him skulking around. Maybe I am a good spy. Gurren grinned, and his cheeks felt weird, like they weren't used to this expression, or the pride warming his insides. How long have I been here? There was no way to tell, but it must have been long indeed if his facial muscles forgot what smiling felt like. Well, I'll be smiling a lot more when I shove a sword through the adversary multiple times. But first, he needed to steal a book, find the rebellion, and then lead them, because they obviously needed a new leader. Why else would that woman want him to find them, if not to lead them to victory? Gurren opened and closed his hands, wishing he held a sword in each one now, instead of the sulfurous fumes of hell. Keep your mind on your task. You need a weapon capable of harming the most powerful fallen angel that ever existed. Just thinking about that should have given him pause. Instead, he slipped silently through the darkness. The screams of tormented souls echoed through the air. They were a constant reminder that he was in hell, lest he forget. Hopefully those souls were keeping the devils busy and their gaze away from the library tonight. Ahead, the high walls surrounding the Library of Forbidden Knowledge loomed over the city, lit by a red glow from somewhere within the fortress-like structure. I wonder what generates that light, and if it's worth stealing. Gurren studied the walls around the library, seeking a gate or some way to breach them. But from where he stood, they looked quite solid. I wish I had wings. That would make getting inside a lot easier, but he wasn't an angel, so he didn't have wings and couldn't fly, nor could he teleport either. He lost that power the day he lost the war in heaven, and man, did he miss it. No building is impenetrable. No matter how imposing it looks, there's got to be a way inside. I must find it, but Gurren couldn't see away from here. His heart raced as the pendant around his neck emitted a soft purple glow. Can you direct me to the nearest entrance? He lifted the circular pendant, and it warmed on his palm.
The rebellion awaits you.
The mysterious woman's words echoed in his mind, and he imagined her lips parting for a real kiss. Perhaps she awaited him too.
Wake me up.
She said, all but confirming it before he banished the images. He needed to plan a break-in. not revisit his memory of that woman who claimed to be the sleeping angel. The fortress walls cast sinister shadows over the barren land between the city and the library. Well, staring at it won't get me inside. Goran crept around the remnants of a long-ago battle, using the large pieces of broken masonry for cover, in case someone was watching the approach to the library. Someone must be watching. They won't leave it unattended. That would be the logical thing to do since the Book of Names was inside. Unless the woman was wrong about its location, then the lack of visible guards would make sense. Goran reached the edge of the debris field before he reached the high wall surrounding the Library of Forbidden Knowledge. Now what? Should I crawl on my belly the rest of the way? That was one option. Running was another one since the darkness here was deep and impenetrable to his eyes. But could a demon see in that darkness? Their eyes were adapted to the darkness in ways his eyes weren't. Goran dropped slowly to his knees. I'd better crawl to be on the safe side. I don't want them to know I'm coming until I'm already there. This is going to suck. But he dropped onto his belly and cautiously crawled forward, staying as low to the rocky ground as he could. And it sucked. His leather pants lacked the padding his original pair had on the knees, so he felt every rock under them. The things I do for pretty people who dangle the opportunity for revenge in front of me. He sighed but kept going despite the parallels between the last time he did something this crazy and now. Both times it was at the request of a person with a pretty face. At least I'm not bored. But he was still creeping around, so things hadn't improved all that much. The air thickened, and a chill sliced through him, setting off warning bells in his head a moment before a screech clawed at his mind. God damn it! They had a dragon. The creature screamed again, louder this time, accompanied by the shrill squeal of metal-tipped claws scraping against something hard and unyielding. Could a dragon see in the dark? He didn't know what the hellish demon dragon could do. Where was the thing? A glance at the sky told him nothing since an unnatural night covered the sky, but there were no stars to lighten it. Well, he could lay here for all eternity, or keep crawling toward his destination. Crawling won out since at least that was doing something, and the thought of lying there and waiting for something to discover him kindled a fierce anger inside him at his situation again. No way would he stay here, not when he was within sight of his goal. Is that dragon here to protect the Book of Names or some other treasure? Goran touched the enclosing wall to confirm he finally reached it, then rose because there was no reason to crawl anymore. Now, for the fun part. Sticking close to the wall, he crept slowly around the library in search for an entrance or a gate. He kept one hand on the wall so he didn't stray too far from it. Time didn't have meaning since he wasn't tied to the mortal world anymore. Without a moon or stars, there wasn't any way to tell the hour anyway, so he didn't know how long he hugged the outer wall seeking a way past it. Voices ahead stopped him in his tracks. Hopefully the voices came from the entrance. Goran glided toward them and tried to become one with the darkness. But his nature was too fiery, and all the skulking around bothered him like an itch he couldn't scratch. Stop it. You can't show yourself no matter how much you hate blending in and pretending you're ordinary. You don't have the power to challenge even the weakest of the fallen. That pep talk did the trick and slapped his ego down, so it stopped nagging him. And just in time, too. The darkness lightened a bit when a guard turned and cast a red light on his fellow guard, revealing their horns. Their eyes burned with an unholy red fire as they paced back and forth, and their immense height, at least twice that of Goran's, cast a shadow over the fortress gate.
Did you hear what Antares did?
Asked guard number 1 as he spun to face the guard opposite him. He bounded back the way he came, probably from excitement about the tasty bit of gossip he wanted to share.
No, what did he do this time?
Guard number 2 stretched and yawned, but her red eyes burned with curiosity. Damn, they were both Efreets. I could take them if I had my powers, but I don't know if I can defeat 2 12-foot-tall demons. That might push his luck too far, but the temptation to try fired him upright until the pendant hanging around his neck chilled his skin.
Find me after you deliver the book to the rebels. Wake me up, and I'll tell you how to defeat the Prince of Lies.
The so-called sleeping angel whispered in his ear. Or maybe he imagined that, but he didn't imagine the delicious shiver her words sent through him. I can test my strength against them after I find out how to destroy their prince. Goran rested his hand on the pendant to cover it, in case it was glowing as he crept back the way he came. He couldn't enter that way, not if he wanted to enter the library in secret, and he did now because his success might hinge on that. Since the entrance is a no-go, I'd better find another way in. I wonder if this place has a back entrance. Goran stuck close to the wall as he skulked around the fortress backside. After what felt like hours, he heard no voices nor felt any break in the stonework. There must be another way in. Goran stopped, because all this creeping around was getting him nowhere, except annoyed. Maybe I should just challenge the guards and take my chances. There were plenty of rocks around. I could throw them at the guards and maybe I'll knock one out. He bent, felt for a fist-sized rock, and then mimed throwing it. In his mind's eye, the two guards appeared, and he imagined a rock striking one in the head. The other guard turned and charged right at him, because Ifrits could see better in the dark than he could. Damn, I'd have to dodge quickly because they have longer legs and arms than I do. But I'm not fit to take on even a lesser demon right now. Goran glanced ruefully down at his wasted body, then banished the images of the fight from his mind. No, he couldn't attack them directly. Then how can I get into the library? I can't fly. Nor could he teleport anymore. Frustrated at his lack of progress, he slapped the wall, and his hand landed on a brick that stuck out far enough for a foot to fit on it. Maybe I don't need to fly over the wall. Goran felt above and below the brick, extruding from the wall, and found more such hand and footholds. They formed a ladder that might reach the top. Maybe I can just scale the wall. He stepped on the first brick and reached up to grab the one above it, but luck was with him. Goran climbed up only a dozen feet before he spotted a narrow ledge a man length above him. Might there be a window up there? Or some kind of trapdoor for defenders to drop things on attackers? It was a long shot, but it was better than scaling the wall unseen. The climb was grueling since his arms hadn't held his weight in a long time, and his shoulders burned from the effort. But he pulled himself up, determined to get inside. He'd worked too hard to quit now. Besides, he had nothing else to do except run and hide, so why not help the rebellion? Maybe I can get some of my power back from the fallen angels that took it. That thought sent renewed energy coursing through him as he swung onto the ledge. Goran sat there for a moment and just breathed. The air was hot and heavy, but it didn't stink of rotting eggs as much as the air near the ground, so he savored it until a gust of wind threatened to hurl him off the damned ledge. Goran gritted his teeth and held on. His fingers ached from the strain, but he wouldn't let the damned wind end his mission. No way. That would just be insulting. I bested air mages in my day. Some stupid wind won't stop me. Maybe the wind hurt him, because it died down, and he relaxed his hold on the stone ledge and felt along the wall behind him. Just when he was about to give up hope, his fingers slid over a crack in the wall. I knew it. There's something behind this wall. Goran pushed on it, and a flap swung in, but the space it revealed wasn't that large. This will be a tight squeeze, but nothing's ever easy. Goran ducked his head and hunched his shoulders as he crawled inside the narrow space. Behind him, the flap swung closed on silent hinges, removing any chance that anyone would see him. Now I just need to find that book, and anything else I can use against the adversary. Goran grinned. For the first time since he fell, everything was working out just right, like it was foretold or something like that. You better watch out, Prince of Darkness. I'm coming for you, and I won't stop until I defeat you and take your crown. Chapter 3. The Forbidden Library. The tunnel narrowed, squeezing him as he crawled onward like the tunnel heard his thoughts about overthrowing the ruler of hell and didn't like them. But that wasn't possible. There was no such thing as a sentient building, so the fortress wasn't trying to push him out. Goran shook away such crazy thoughts. The walls aren't closing in around me. They won't crush me. The pendant seemed to agree, because the symbols glowed as Goran crawled forward, but it blazed like a beacon in the darkness. And that was bad, because the creatures he needed to avoid would notice a light where there shouldn't be one. Goran shoved the pendant under his tunic, and hoped that blocked enough of its glow to keep anyone from seeing him, especially since he didn't know where this tunnel would take him. It couldn't go on forever, even though it seemed like it might. The tunnel must end somewhere. But with the pendant's glow hidden, he couldn't see anything but darkness ahead. He crawled slowly, and tried not to make any noise since there was nothing here except his clothes to muffle the sound, and they weren't effective. Goran paused when his fingers touched only air in front of him. Well, that answered that question. The tunnel ended right here. He felt for the edge, then eased his legs over it. His feet touched the floor, so that was good. At least he wouldn't fall and risk a broken bone. Instead, he slid out of the crawl space and stood to his full height. Unfortunately, this room was pitch black, so he couldn't see anything. But he also didn't hear anything either. Not for a long while after he exited the crawl space. Silence blanketed a room of unknown size. If someone heard me, they'd have come running to see what was going on by now. It was safe enough to risk a little light. Goran reached under his tunic and pulled the pendant out, as a glowing ball of light sailed into the chamber and rose to the ceiling, showering the aisles and shelves with gold light. A moment later, a demon emerged from the same doorway, and his eyes fixed on Goran. Well, there was no turning back now. Goran squared his shoulders and lifted his chin in defiance, even though that was the wrong move. He should find somewhere to hide, not stand there like he was challenging the demon. Am I challenging him? His heart raced at the thought, and several opening moves cycled through his head for use if this came to a fight. What are you doing? You're on a mission. You're not here to brawl, right? I need to blend in. Goran let go of the pendant, and his gaze fell on the shelves towering over him. Dusty ancient tomes lined each shelf, and some whispered dark secrets in languages he couldn't understand, daring him to pick them up and read their contents. Part of him doubted this mission was real, and not a way to get rid of him. Although she had no reason to do that since he never met her before this. But now that he stared at the shelves of forbidden knowledge, he felt in his bones the veracity of the sleeping angel's request. If there was a weapon capable of destroying a prince of hell, then it must be here. He could be staring at it right now. I'll find the key to turn the tide in the rebellion's favor so I can get revenge. As the demon approached, his footsteps echoed ominously through the library's hallowed halls. Goran's mind raced to find some way to stay in the library without giving away his mission or causing a commotion. He couldn't risk alerting the malevolent forces that governed this place to his presence. But what could he say to explain his presence? I guess I could claim to work here. Someone must shelve all these books. After all, they didn't shelve themselves. Perhaps there was some force out there that wanted to help him, because a nearby shelf filled with dusty scrolls and ancient manuscripts caught his gaze. I'm just a patron, looking up something for my demonic masters. Goran grabbed the topmost scroll like he was searching for it, and unrolled it, while he kept up the mental jabber about needing a particular scroll from Ephanitis, a minor demon he crossed paths with a while back. Hopefully he wasn't minor enough to request something from the Library of Forbidden Knowledge, or the demon stalking through the stacks didn't read minds because he didn't say anything. Goran kept his eyes on the scroll. Unfortunately, he recognized the ancient script. It was the one his pantheon used before it fell. He almost dropped the scroll when he realized he held a spell that could summon one of his kind. What was this thing doing in hell? Could I use it? Some of the former gods from his pantheon weren't in hell. Could I summon one of them to hell? If so, there was only one goddess he would want to call, Phaedrasin, the ex-goddess of fate. Could I summon her? If he did, could she change his fate? Of course she would. After all, we're from the same pantheon. That makes us allies. He imagined summoning her. Faye would appear and ask him what he wanted. What did she look like now? Was she still tiny? Would he still tower over her? Of course she'd be so overawed that he summoned her. She'd trip over herself in her haste to help him. Yes, she would. He smiled at the thought of having the final fate in his grasp again. Goran was so engrossed in the scroll he didn't notice the demon stop behind him until he felt the heat from its breath on the back of his neck. Goran forced himself to freeze, not spin, and punch the demon in the face for daring to breathe on him, like he would normally do. You're pretending to be a patron of the library on a research assignment, not an ex-god of war plotting the downfall of the biggest devil of them all. And he should guard his thoughts, not broadcast them to all and sundry. Think like a servant. What the hell did a servant think about? A pulsing sensation dragged his attention to the pendant resting on his tunic. Damn it, I should have hidden it. He didn't need its light anymore since the words on the scroll glowed green. Was it supposed to do that? His heart beat faster. Did I activate the spell? He wanted to tear his gaze away from the scroll. Its words already imprinted themselves on his memory, so he didn't need it anymore. But that might tip off the demon behind him, and it might realize he wasn't here to read. Could I pick up another scroll, or a book to keep the ruse going? Books on the shelf nearby also glowed now in a rainbow of colors. What made them glow? Was the demon behind him doing it? What was the demon doing besides breathing heavily like it ran up a flight of stairs? Come on, go away. I'm just a student of the dark arts seeking knowledge for my own nefarious purposes. That was even true from a certain point of view. Goran hunched his shoulders as he read the scroll again, and his heart sank. To summon a god, you needed a child. Oh, hell no. I don't deal with children. There went that plan for now, but maybe he could change the spell. A hand covered in fur reached past him to grab a scroll from the same shelf, and he tried not to show how much that sudden movement startled him. Goran clamped down on the urge to grab the hand and twist it. You're not here to fight. You're supposed to find a book. So just stand there and let the demon get what he came for. Hot breath stopped hitting the back of his neck as the sound of footsteps signaled the demon backed away. Maybe he'd find a nice nook to read in and stay out of his way. Goran read the spell again. It was convoluted enough that it might actually work. Well, I'd better take this with me even if I can't use it, so no one else can use it either. Goran rolled up the scroll, then looked for something to carry it in, because it was too long to fit in his pocket. Someone must have left a satchel lying around somewhere. If he could find it, that might help him blend in better. For now, he just held the scroll as he delved deeper into the library, Somewhere within its labyrinthine halls lay the key to the rebellion's success. But he knew he'd find it. This scroll was a sign fate was on his side again. Or it was until he turned a corner and came face to face with a group of demons. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly hunger. Damn it, the leader, a towering figure with twisted horns and a sinister grin, stepped forward, and his voice echoed through the library like a death knell.
What are you doing here? We don't allow humans in the library.
The leader hissed like a snake. Garan held up the scroll. I'm fetching this from my master. You should tell him that. As the demons closed in, Garan ran through a few scenarios in his head to gauge his odds of winning a fight against 3 demons that were 3 feet taller than him and armed with claws. The odds weren't great since they were the kind of demons that drew strength from pain and their injuries would heal fast, but Garan couldn't do the same. Any injury he incurred would take time to heal and temporarily weaken him enough to give them an advantage. Damn it, I can't fight them. And that stoked his anger because he liked a good fight. Garan ground his teeth, then tried to smile, but it probably looked more like a grimace. My master will be angry. If this scroll doesn't reach him intact, I suggest you let me pass. The leader of the demons snorted and folded his arms.
And why should we care what your master wants?
Think fast. You need to bluff them. One possibility sprang to mind. He could claim his fictitious master was the Prince of Darkness himself and imply there might be a reward for letting him go. Garan shrugged. Because my master serves the adversary himself. Angering him means angering him too. The demons glanced at each other. The Prince of Darkness' wrath was legendary. Garan seized the opportunity their doubt created. He bowed with a flourish. If you'll excuse me, I must deliver this scroll at once. The Lord of Hell doesn't tolerate tardiness. He strode between the demons before they could protest, and he fought the urge to cheer as he walked away. Whispered voices followed him as he turned a corner, but no footsteps resounded in the spacious library. Garan punched the sky in triumph. The bluff worked for now. Fate really is with me. But only a fool would rely on it again, and I'm no fool. But neither were the librarians of this place. Where would they put a book full of names? Not in this room. Footsteps reminded him to plunge deeper into a shadowed alcove until the demons passed by. He needed to find that book without raising suspicion. Chapter 4. Lost in the Library. That book must be here somewhere. Garan wandered down another twisted aisle of bookshelves and gritted his teeth in frustration when every freaking book glowed like it held secrets and spells. Did any of them hold the book he needed? I can't check them all. There must be millions of books. As he reached one that glowed violet like a sleeping angel's eyes, the shelf bent backward to evade him, and some magical force kept the books on the shelf as it undulated like a snake crawling away from him. Nothing made sense here, and it made him want to tear his hair out. But he refrained because ladies liked his dark curls, and he had a lady to impress.
Wake me up.
The sleeping angel said, and he damn well would. The spines of the books shifted like invisible hands shuffled them. Garan turned a corner, and books leaped from shelves to shelves like they were playing tag. What the hell is going on? Did I pass that stone bench already? Garan hurried to it, and stopped as the air shimmered beside him like someone was teleporting in. He waited, but the shimmer faded, and no one appeared. I must have imagined that. But he didn't imagine that shelf of musty tomes that were worn around the edges. Didn't I pass that already? But the aisle was wider and the ceiling higher above his head than it was before, and the stone bench disappeared. His usually keen sense of direction just didn't work in this place, and that was driving him crazy. Garan wanted to scream in frustration, but that wouldn't fix the problem. It would only create a new one when that scream drew tension to him. The library wanted to keep its secrets. Well, that was too bad. I'll find that damn book, even if I must spend all eternity looking for it. So you can either let me find it or get used to me searching for it, because I'm not leaving without it. Garan glared at the intersection that appeared in front of him. Was it an illusion? Or was the library finally playing straight with him? The intersection vanished. So it was like that. Well, if the library kept thwarting his attempts to navigate it in any sort of logical manner, then he'd stop his systematic search. Garan chose an aisle at random, then another and another. He didn't even look at the books he passed because none was the one he wanted. That book was somewhere else, and the library was trying to keep him from finding it. That probably means I'm looking for a hidden room. When he rounded the next shelving unit, Garan stumbled upon a dead end where a moment ago there had been a gap leading deeper into the stacks. He slammed a fist into the stone wall now blocking his way. Damn it. The library was still 2 steps ahead of him. The wall shook, but it didn't crack or crumble. Ouch. Damn it. I forgot I lost my invincibility. Gawain rubbed his smarting hand and turned to go back the way he came. The library felt like an endless, twisting maze designed to frustrate him. But it won't defeat me. There had to be a way to outwit the infernal magic distorting the geometry of this place. He closed his eyes and took several slow, deep breaths to focus his mind. I'm a freaking war god. I can see through illusions. I just need to concentrate on seeing what's really there, not the magic confusing my sight. When he opened his eyes again, the shelves stood in straight lines for just a heartbeat. Then they twisted into a maze again. But he already saw the way through this tangle of shelves and he strode toward it, ignoring everything else. He didn't bump into anything. Even though shelves appeared to twist around him, none of that was real. Gawain smiled as he wound deeper into the library. I see right through your trickery. You'll need to do better than a few illusions to stop me. The shelves straightened as the spell, or its caster, realized their illusions weren't sending him in circles anymore. Garin hurried on, fired by grim determination. The library wouldn't defeat him. I will find that damn book, even if it takes years. I've got nothing else to do. As Garin entered another chamber, ancient scrolls and artifacts surrounded him. Is the Book of Names a leather-bound book like the millions I passed or a scroll? He probably should have asked that when he talked to the sleeping angel, but that question didn't occur to him then. Now he needed to know, and there was no one he could ask unless he wanted to flag down a demon and ask. I don't think that would be a good idea after I bluffed the last group into thinking I knew exactly what I came here for. They might try to throw me out. And he couldn't leave until he found that damn book. I guess I should search through these dusty scrolls. As Garin picked up one and unrolled it, he froze. Someone else was here. He could sense it. When he turned, no one was there. But the air shimmered 1 aisle over. What caused that sourceless glow? Was it a spell? He dropped the scroll back onto the shelf and drifted over to examine a patch of hazy light. He couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. No matter how many times he checked behind him, a familiar presence lingered in the air, sending a shiver of anticipation through him. Perhaps the sleeping angel realized he didn't know what the Book of Names looked like, and she'd come to help him search. That was unlikely if the rumors about her were true, but they may not be. Most rumors were lies. The hazy light expanded until it was a few inches shorter than him and roughly man-shaped. Then it faded away, leaving a cloaked man dressed in ornate, old-fashioned robes standing there. Oh, God, no. I know those tan, chiseled features, that amused smile, and those mischievous silver eyes. And Garin wasn't happy to see the ex-pagan god who owned them. A lock of white hair escaped his hood and obscured one eye as if Haglier studied him. What the hell was a trickster-time god doing here? What do you want? Garin folded his arms to keep from shaking the loud. History was a capricious jerk, and so was the ex-god who wrote it. Hithaglir pouted with unfairly full lips that weren't chapped or cracked from ages spent in hell's punishing heat.
Is that any way to greet your cousin?
Garin turned and walked away. Since when did you and I ever get along?
Oh, come now. I remember all your deeds. And because I do, so does the world. You're the greatest general in all their myths because of me.
Hithaglir followed him. You could be lying about that since I have no way to check. Garin grabbed a scroll on a nearby shelf. He had a book to find, and standing here talking to one of the most annoying gods in his fallen pantheon wouldn't help him find it.
But I'm not. I am history.
Hithaglir tapped his chest. Are you sure about that? After all, they overthrew you too when our pantheon fell. Garin unrolled the scroll and stared at the lines of cursive writing. They looked like sentences, not a list of names, so he dropped it onto the shelf again.
Would I lie to you?
That was a rhetorical question, right? Garin laughed. Of course history lied. A minor deity who had the attention span of a fruit fly maintained it. Garin glared at the thousands of scrolls on this bookcase. This was like searching for a needle in a haystack. There must be a better way to search, but for the life of him, he couldn't think of it.
Why are you in this place? You were never much for book learning.
Hithaglir lifted a scroll off another shelf, then dropped it when a cloud of dust rose from it. He grimaced and wiped his hands on his cloak, but history never did like to get his hands dirty. Why are you here? How did you even get into the library? They didn't send you to hell. Garin opened and closed his hands. No, history and all the other time gods chose the side of the Creator and either fought for heaven or stayed in the mortal realm and out of the conflict. For a moment, the heartbreakingly beautiful face of Azrael, second in command of the archangels, raised his golden rod to parry the strike aimed at his head. Garin banished the vision. He didn't need to relive that confrontation. Besides, it was a long time ago. I don't blame you. You were just following orders. I hope someday we'll fight on the same side. But that was impossible now. Archangels didn't visit hell, but he still wished for that. Azrael was one of the fiercest warriors he'd ever faced in single combat.
I sensed you were there, and I just flashed myself to you. There was nothing to it, really.
Hithaglier shrugged as his hands hovered over an illustrated manuscript lying open on a nearby lectern. Every aisle ended at one. You can still teleport? Garen glared at him as jealousy scorched his insides.
That's what I just said. This place is really messing with your mind. You used to be a lot quicker on the uptake back when we ruled the world.
Hithaglier turned a page in the manuscript. You didn't rule anything. Garen doubled over and laughed at the very idea of this pompous peacock running anything larger than his own household.
Yeah, well, neither did you.
Hithaglier glared at him. I knew my skills, and running a country wasn't one of them. So I left that to the politicians and I stuck to what I'm good at, fighting. Garen glanced away and stared into the middle distance. But that wasn't all he did. Once he had been a protector too, using his skills to keep invaders out. But that got lost when the devil stroked his ego and inflated his pride, until the idea of kneeling to anyone was unthinkable. But I can turn from that path and go back to protecting those that need it. I can make war only on those who deserve it. Garen thought of the rebels and the sleeping angel's request. Maybe there was no salvation for him, but there were people who needed him, and maybe he needed them too.
That's actually quite wise. I respect the decision.
Hithaglier walked away from the lectern. Garen scoffed at that. He didn't need or want his respect. Why are you here? You still haven't answered that question. You could have flashed yourself over for a chat ages ago. Why now? Although the reason was obvious. Hithaglier needed or wanted something from the library, and the thought made Garen uneasy. What could the embodiment of all history need from a library in hell?
Come now, you know why. I can see it in your eyes. You never were good at hiding your thoughts. Your suspicions are plain on your face for all to read.
Hithaglier smiled that smug smile that always signaled trouble in the past. Who sent you? Garen strode toward him. Hithaglier wasn't working for the rebellion, nor was he condemned to hell for all eternity. Who was he working for? Is his mission a threat to mine?
I'm not working for anyone. I sent myself here.
Hithaglier stood his ground. The slender ex-god didn't even flinch when Garen stopped just inches from him. Why? What could you possibly want from here? Garen shoved the ex-god.
What do you have in your pocket?
Hithaglier grabbed the scroll and yanked it out as he danced away, and he didn't stop until he put a shelving unit between them. He unrolled the scroll and grinned.
What have we here? A summoning spell. Now isn't that interesting?
Hithaglier rolled it up, and that smug smile returned. Give that back to me. Garen pushed on the shelving unit until it toppled over, but Hithaglier was already fading away into a cloud of white motes, unhurt, unrepentant, and still holding that scroll.
Thanks for the spell, cousin. Fare thee well if you can.
Hithaglier vanished as the scrolls fell through the hazy patch of light left behind when he teleported away. A loud crash echoed through the chamber. Damn it, I let my anger get the better of me, and now I've let everyone know I'm here. I must get out of this chamber before someone comes to investigate the noise. But anger boiled up and he wanted to scream in frustration until he realized the spell his cousin stole could summon a god. Could that fool use it to summon me? If he did, would that break the hold hell had on him? Calm down. He probably won't summon you unless he needs to start a war. Then why did the ex-god of history need such a spell? Garen forced himself to stride toward the exit across from him as he thought all this through as rationally as his anger would allow. Who did Hithaglier want to summon? Garen stepped into the shadows to conceal himself as footsteps came this way. I need a secluded chamber to hold up in for a while until the librarians forget about the commotion. But the exit didn't offer that, just a narrow hallway that probably led to another chamber like the last one. But the question remained, why would Hithaglier need to summon a member of his pantheon? Garen's mind raced with possibilities, each more troubling than the last. This was too important to ignore, but who could he tell about it? No one, because no one in hell could leave it. Why should I care what he does with it? He shouldn't. But Garen couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. It dogged him like a silent companion as the air grew colder and the shadows darkened. Did the library sense that Hithaglier stole one of its scrolls? Did that theft trigger its protections? God damn you, Hithaglier, if you made my mission any harder than it must be. You've been listening to Part 1 of Gateway to Hell, Book 1 of the Rogue Gods Trilogy, written by Melinda Kucera. Subscribe now so you get notified when Part 2 publishes. You can also buy a copy of the book from the links in the description. The Rogue Gods Trilogy is available in ebook and paperback. All images were created by Melinda Kucera and are included in the illustrated paperback and hardcover books available directly from Melinda's shop. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening.
I'm not actually a snake. I'm not even on this plane of existence.